Jessamine County Public Library and the Nature Reliance School present Vital Survival, a 12-part series that will cover the essential knowledge and skills you need to be prepared for disaster and emergency situations. In Lesson 11, Craig discusses the importance of developing good critical thinking skills. If you are interested in exploring this topic further, check out these resources available at JCPL. Stay tuned after the lesson to learn how you can be entered to win one of Craig Caudill's books.
So when my kids were little, they used to watch a cartoon called Blue's Clues. And in that cartoon, one of the hallmarks of the entertainment value of it was this idea of think, think, think. And I love that. It was a good way of teaching children that they need to know how to think and think about problems and solutions and enjoyment and education and all the things that go along with it. Well, we're not going to be looking at the cartoon version of how to think, but we are definitely going to be looking at a more advanced methodology of critical decision making and how to think. In this particular lesson, we're going to walk you through the methods, the insider information, how to assess how to think, how to assess that when your thinking is maybe not well informed, and all the things that go along with it. There's a phrase that I really like to repeat, and that is, if you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for anything. And that's why I think that we really need to develop a solid foundation of how to develop our critical thinking skills. What I mean by that is that to be able to question your own thought processes, one of the first things you need to do is develop exactly that, a foundation. And we do that by looking at those that influence us, those that mentor us, those that guide and direct. Sometimes that's people in our own homes, sometimes that is a teacher, sometimes that's a librarian, sometimes that's a drill sergeant. But we need to find that person that we are being mentored by that gives us a real solid foundation of how it is that we should think and what we should think about. Once we build that foundation of thought and how we approach life, it is then that we can start to branch off and look at other considerations, particularly those that question our foundation. And let's get into a few ways of doing that in a healthy manner, and we're going to stair-step this up so that we're all developing our critical thinking skills. And one of the first ways that we're going to do this is we're going to ask ourselves 3 questions. Those 3 questions are, what kind of resources have I utilized to get to the opinion that I have on this particular matter? It could be religious in nature, it could be science, it could be art, it could be whether pineapple should be on pizza or not. But what sort of resources have I utilized to get to that informed opinion? Secondly, we must ask ourselves, how did we get to the position that we already know something? And that's where those mentors or teachers or parents or pastors are the ones that tell us how we should feel and think on certain subjects. It may be that when we grow up and we get more informed or educated or do more research, we even change our opinions on those things. But originally what we need to do is understand that our sources for information, sometimes that comes in textbooks, sometimes that comes in religious books, sometimes that comes in mentoring and education from somebody that oversees us, helps us, and helps us grow. But at some point in time, we need to know what those are. A perfect example is, do we have a certain opinion on, let's go back to this pizza analogy, pineapple should be on pizza. You might have that opinion because, well, your parents loved pineapple on pizza, and when it comes down to it, you probably don't like it. It's okay. It's okay. It's worth your shot. But we know, hey, I like pineapple on pizza, or I don't like pineapple on pizza because my mom made me eat it all the time and I didn't actually like it. And so understanding those 2 aspects of this consideration is important. The last of the 3 is this, is what kind of things have we overlooked? And this is where we start to get into areas where it may be a subject matter that's more sensitive. You know, religion comes up as an often topic. Do we look at other religious texts to try to understand and fundamentally develop what it is that we think? At some point in time, we should all question the things that we believe in, and we should look at the resources that we've been given and then look to other sources as well to verify that what we believe is what we believe. So it's worth our effort to look at these overlooked resources, things that we may have not considered, and move on from there. The next thing, and again, as I'm recording this, we're right in the middle of the riots of 2020. We are maybe on the other side. We might still be right in the middle of the pandemic of 2020. And I think anybody that's lived through that has the ability to consider and think, realizes that news media sources are biased. So it is my recommendation, and worthy of your consideration, to look at the news sources that you are getting your information from as far as news as it relates to things maybe on a local level, on a worldwide level, and look at different viewpoints and different news sources. If you have a conservative news source over here, then look at a liberal news source over here. See where those two news sources come and meet in the middle. That's probably the more accurate description. It's a foregone conclusion that news media try to paint a picture to push forward a narrative. All of them do. And so it's worth our effort to try to read the news rather than just watch it. Because at this point, news that we watch on TV is entertainment as much as it is anything else. In reading, you can start to develop your own cognitive thought process on what it is that you're reading, critically think about it without the entertainment value trying to push your mind a certain direction. Now the next part of this is what's referred to typically as biases. We all have them. You have them, I have them. We all have biases within our own mindset, within our own culture, within our own society, within our own families on how we think. I don't think there's anything wrong with those. What we do need to recognize is that we have them. As I mentioned in one of the previous videos, I talked about normalcy bias as it relates to safety and survival. One of the things that we need to be able to do is understand that we want to normalize situations that sometimes are not normal. I used the previous example of a woman getting up in a restaurant, choking, going to a bathroom. I hope that makes sense. We have cognitive bias, what are referred to as cognitive biases. That's where there's certain things that we have learned through osmosis, that we've learned as we've been growing up, that are just part of us, that we need to recognize that are part of us. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. I'm just saying that we need to recognize those things so that when we look at a situation, we're looking through them recognizing, hey, I have this particular bias and it might push me to think of a situation like this. Critical decision making does not have room for that. You have to understand that you have these biases, and when the time is right, you need to set yourself aside from those biases, or at least recognize that it might taint your opinion, and gather information critically and scientifically rather than simply utilizing this bias, which is similar to having rose-colored glasses in how we view the world. Now this next one is rather hard to understand, and it's one of the reasons that I came here to the library. I love going to libraries and gathering information, whether the library is online or whether the library is here in my own hometown. Full of information, full of opportunities for you to learn. What happens a lot of times, and this is what I love being in a community like this, there's always constant noise. There's police cars that are making noise and stuff of that nature. We need to recognize, how do we go about making decisions under stress like that? Can I continue to communicate and keep my train of thought while there's a lot of traffic going by, as there's people that are walking behind me, as police cars are driving by, and all the things that go along with it? One of the things that happens is this: be okay with your own thoughts. Again, this might be something that comes further down the road, whether that is further down the road you're a young person, you need to develop these things, or you've been so ingrained in your behavior even as an adult and you haven't been given permission to think for yourself. I'm giving you that permission. I'm allowing you to be confident in your own thoughts. That doesn't mean that you get overconfident in your own thoughts. Huge difference. It's a lot like I talked about in self-defense of confidence versus cockiness. Having thought processes and communicating with others is similar to this as we relate to others, as we communicate, as we work with, and as sometimes we deal with the stress and aggression of others, whether it's verbal or physical. We need to be confident in what it is that we consider, and the way you do that is you study, you learn, you continue to grow. And that growing and that studying and that developing yourself never stops. The most successful people in the world, and success is an interesting thing to consider. I'm not talking about financial success, although this happens with people with huge financial success. One of the things that sets successful people apart, those with financial success, those that have success developing and mentoring others, is they all read and study a lot. They're constantly in a growth pattern till the day they die. And so by the time you continue to read and study and grow in your own mind, one of the things that you will do is you will develop confidence in your own thoughts and not constantly rely upon others. Now, everything that I've related to you as it relates to critical decision-making skills up to this point has had a whole lot of what I, again, have referred to as soft skills. Let's look at some more hard skills as it's related to critical decision-making. One of the best ways that you can become someone who makes good critical decisions is to be a good listener. Here are some things that are physical demonstrations that you're listening to someone else that's giving you information. This is why this is important. If you are exhibiting these behaviors, then the person that you're communicating to will feel more comfortable and give you more information. When you get more information, what happens is you make better critical decisions. So here's some indicators, and I'll demonstrate both the good and the bad side of it. What if I'm talking to you and I'm looking around like this? That's one thing, right? I'm not giving you my full attention. By me looking directly at you and giving you my full attention, then that helps you if you want to communicate back to me. And when you start talking, it's easy. I'm as guilty of this as anybody, of wanting to try to push my own thoughts across. But one of the best things that we can do is that when somebody starts communicating to us, we simply stop, we look at them in the eye, and we listen. And while we're listening, we'll do things like we nod, and we look at them. And again, I have difficulty with this too. Oftentimes, we need to just put this thing aside and look at somebody and communicate with them. Here's another physical indicator for you. If we're talking and I'm kind of facing over here but looking at you, then I'm not giving you my full attention. Typically, as far as physical markers are concerned, where my toes are pointing is where my attention is being given. So if my body is literally facing this direction, unless I'm forced to because of a car or something like that, if my body is facing this direction but I'm turned this direction, talking to you in this manner, I'm not giving you my full attention. What I need to do is square up, look you in the eye, and nod, and listen. These are some of those interpersonal skills that are very obvious to measure. Look at yourself, and as you start thinking about these things, and like we did in the last video where we talked about proxemics and biometrics and kinesics and all the things that go along with it, again, get the download copy of the version of this course as well, because it's incredibly valuable. All those things that are discussed there, those things can tell you when people are listening to you versus when they're not. So what did I say at the beginning? Think, think, think. Libraries are a good place to develop your thought processes. Go to the library, get books, get on the internet, research. If you have internet at home, get on the internet at home. If you got books at home, get on the books at home, study, research, develop confidence, and then have the ability to communicate effectively. And here's the most important thing out of the last part of what I shared with you, is be a good listener. When you're a good listener, you get good information. Without it, you can't make good decisions. So be a good listener, and you'll be able to do critical decision making, both slow and steady and on the fly. Come on, join in. Let's learn together.
If you would like to be entered to win one of Craig Caudill's books, email the correct answer to this question to Les Lehman at lehman@jesspублib.org. What are 3 physical signs that a person is listening carefully? Thanks for watching. Check out the JCPL YouTube channel for more videos in this series.